Hello everyone. Our team including Shivi, Arushi and myself Praveen are super excited to be here sharing our work on real typography space. I'm pretty much sure that every designer would have faced this problem in their real projects. So let's talk about it. Well, there are lots of space over here. Let's focus only on this rectangle. So how you will specify the size of this rectangle? Definitely by measuring the height or width of the rectangle. And now if I change the height from 300 points to 200 points, then the visual change can be very precisely measured. So likewise, the typography elements are measured by the font size. But what does this font size actually signify visually? For example, in this case, the font size is set to 200 point. So is this the height of the character or is this the width of the character? Well, the answer is none. The font size is the height of the virtual bounding box around this character M, and it's not the real height of the character. So as we can see that there is extra space around the real bounds of the glyph, which includes the left bearing, the right bearing, the ascent and the descent. And overall this creates a virtual bounding box. And this bounding box is known as the M box or the text box in the typography world. And it plays a very crucial role in the typesetting rules. So virtual bounding box guides the typesetting rules, but it is not visible to the designer. And the designer want to have the precise control over the real bounding box, which is visual. So in this talk, we are proposing the methods to bridge the gap between this virtual and the real space for the designers. Before we go forward, let's dive into the past to find out where this extra space came from. So in the 15th century, when the printing actually starts, the type was being set manually inside individual metal blocks. So the space came out naturally around each glyph. And when we moved to the digital typography in the 80s and the 90s, the software followed this tradition. Coming back to the problem, so let's talk about these four significant areas to explain the designer's pain point due to the virtual space. We will explain this in the form of the reality, that is what the designer currently sees versus what their expectation can be. We will also propose the potential solutions for each of these different problems that we will explain. We already discussed about the font size very briefly earlier. So let's talk about that in more detail. So this is what the designer gets in reality after setting the font size to 200 points. Whereas the expectation may be that the height of the entire word to be 200 points. I think the problem here may not be how the font size work. It's more about the gap in the information that the designer has about the visual change due to this font size setting. The designer may want to have more precise control over those visual change. We are proposing the font height variations that will enable the designer to precisely set the height based on the important attributes of the font. And those attributes can be the cap height, the X height, the ICF box, or the body height. The designer can also choose to set the height of the M box, which is similar to how the font size currently works. So in a sense, font size can be considered as a superset of the font size setting we have currently. So now the designer have a lot many options to choose from, and that also very precisely. So let's look into each of those examples one by one. So in this case, the designer can directly set the cap height to 200 points, as you can see in the figure in the right. So internally, we do calculate the font size required to set the height of the capital letter to 200 points. This is required mostly because the entire text engine works on the premises of the font size. And also, this will also help in maintaining the compatibility with the legacy file as well as with the other application. Similarly, in this case, the designer can set the X height to 200 points, and again, the system will internally calculate the font size required to set the height of the lowercase to 200 points. The cap height and the X height, they are more static in nature, but we will have something more dynamic also. So in this case, the body height specified by the designer is 111 point. As one is typing inside, the system will continuously calculate the font size required to set the height of the word as 111 points. So that's why we are calling it as dynamic. Also, our solution will result in more visual consistency across the different fonts. So earlier, even when we set the same font size on two different fonts, it may have the different real heights, as we can see in the figure in the left. Now, after setting the font height with reference to the capital height, we can visually match the capital height across the different fonts. And fortunately, this is not a mere proposal. We will showcase its live demo in a moment. Coming back to the second problem, which is alignment. So when aligning any object with the text, it aligns with the visual text box, whereas the designer may expect to align with the real bounding box. We have designed a glyph guiding system which helps in the precise alignment around the glyphs. We will share more details about it in a moment. Third one is spacing. So in this case, even on setting the kerning value as 100 between each of the glyph pairs, the effective space between the consecutive glyphs is uneven. But the designer definitely expects the spacing to be even as the kerning value is same across the each glyph pairs. This is mainly because while setting the space between the characters, either by using the kerning or the tracking, the virtual space around each glyph is involved, and those virtual space are different for each glyph. Which means even if the kerning is 0, even then there will still be some space between the glyphs bound of the characters due to those virtual space. We are proposing a concept that we are calling as precise kerning. And now with precise kerning, we can reveal the true spacing parameter between the glyph forms. So precise kerning will denote the exact space between the glyphs. And on setting the zero precise kerning, there will be zero space between the glyphs, as you can see in the figure over here. Like the font size, we also here internally calculates the kerning value as it is required for the cross application compatibility and also for the typesetting workflows. Lastly, coming to the selection. So in this case, the graphic object in the red is below the text object in the G order hierarchy. So whenever the designer hits any object inside the text box, then the text box gets selected rather than the graphic. Definitely the expectation will be to pick up graphic object directly. So we are proposing smart selection, and with the smart selection, we are trying to fetch the real contour of each glyph for the hit detection. Only if the cursor is inside contour of any of the glyphs in that text object, then only we will consider that text object as getting hit. So to summarize, we have explained the problems the designer faced in each of these four categories and along with their possible solutions. Now I will hand over to Shivi for the live action.
Thanks, Praveen. Hi, I'm Shivi, your virtual navigator, streaming live from Adobe Illustrator. You heard about undesired space around glyphs, leading to these undesired problems, forcing designers for undesired workarounds. That's quite a lot to handle, but I'm going to showcase all that is desirable as real working solutions. Yes, when we talk about font size, and while designing this signage, the required size is 1.5 inches cap height. Such values are followed quite often in the signage industry. Well, we can definitely change the measuring units in Illustrator, but even if I do that, then also 1.5 inch is still the size of M box and not glyph A. This can create differences when printed. So what do? Make guides and try to match the height manually? Not anymore. With font height options enabled in the character panel, I just need to select cap height and set the value. I'm done in no time. I can do the same for X height and return to my original M box as well, retaining the legacy behavior. Next, taking the case of alignment and branding as they go hand in hand, the designer has been told to make this logo for a travel assistance app. So when I align this graphic with text box, then this is what happens. And probably it's need to be converted to outlines to get it right. But now if I want to change this font, I cannot do it anymore and should always create a copy of it. Now, with Snap to Glyph feature enabled, we can align precisely with interesting areas of live text. So as I drag this graphic, I can discover smart guides for bounds, X height, baseline, bounds for each line inside the text box. This is just amazing. Not just that, if I want to tweak the typeface, then with the help of live anchor points, I can easily do that. And also with glyph selection, I can get more glyph based guides like just you saw the angular one. Whoa, my text is still alive, and let's just change the font itself to make it look better. Now with smart guides helping me, I'm simply done designing. Spacing and selection at last. Here the designer is trying to create a cover page, but the spacing here is quite off in the font. It is set at 50, but looks uneven, especially between P and A, due to space around. But we also have a playful touch type tool in Illustrator that gives you unprecedented control on canvas. I can alter characters from entire word by selecting any glyph individually, modify its spacing, move it, rotate it, and do a lot more. This can be so much fun. Not to forget, I can still change the font anytime, and it calculates everything from its real bounds. Hope this all brings a change for you in Adobe Illustrator. This is the power of real typography space. Yes, having alternate ways of working with playful typography, flexibility, power of editability, and accuracy and instancy, along with saving yourself from feeling dizzy. Exactly, this is how we define real typography space. What you see is what you get. We really wish to be in Paris with everyone this year and keeping fingers crossed for 2021. Thank you for watching, and connect Arushi, Praveen, and Shivi.
This was truly amazing. I have learned so much, and thank you so much for sharing all these little things that really make a difference. I can see that in the chat, Eve says, I just explained all the problems related to spacing typed to my first year students, and this solves so many. I couldn't agree even more. So my name is Dina. I'm your moderator for this session. Thank you again so much for just enlightening us. I actually want to jump now in Illustrator and kind of try these things, which is exciting. For everybody who is attending, don't hesitate to ask questions. So Linda asked, could you please support non-breaking space in Illustrator? If you insert non-breaking space in the text, it is ignored and converted into regular space.
Yes, Inna. So it's not only about the non-blocking space. There are few other hidden characters that we are thinking of bringing at parity with the InDesign. So we are not yet sure about the timelines, but yes, it's in there in our pipeline.
It says, great new features. Can this work if you use two or more typefaces in the same text box?
So for the first version, we have not we don't support that. You can't actually snap around. Okay, so sorry. So you meant to say about snapping, or you meant to say about the font height? The font height, you can definitely there is no limitation of the number of typefaces. You can work on the two typefaces. Yeah, so okay, so I will cover that one by one. So the font height is definitely there is no limitation of the number of fonts. You can definitely use that, and even we have showcased that this will actually help you in bringing the visual consistency, because now you can maintain the same cap height across the two different fonts itself, right? So that's definitely not a limitation there. For the snap to glyph, we have like, although it's very much possible, but for the first version, to keep the cluttering very minimal, we have only enabled it for the single, like if you have the single font in your text object. But maybe in the future version, we may like thought of enabling that for the multiple fonts also, depending upon like if we get any such request from the clients or the customers. And yeah, I think the touch type tool, definitely there is no limitation of the font. Yeah. So
You said in the Paris example, was kerning turned off because there was an enormous gap between the P and the A when you started. Yeah. And I'm still not entirely sure about the kerning part of your presentation.
yeah, so like yeah, so like in the so that touch type tool, yeah, Ishan, it will work for the Devanagari. So, like coming back to the question of US, so yeah, so like touch type tool is actually, we have not implemented the precise kerning via the touch type tool, but we have showcased that via touch type tool you can bring with like you can play around with any glyphs inside a text object in a very free form manner. Right. So like if you move your cursor by 5 points, it will exactly move by the 5 points. So you have that level of control, like to set the position of any glyph. So coming back to the precise kerning, it's not there in the Adobe Illustrator yet, but the concept was that like it's all about that if the user, let's say, set the kerning to 0, so the space between the glyph bounds of those two, of the consecutive glyphs, they are not 0, definitely because of the bearing, right? So it has its own importance, but like what we mean to say by that is that like there are so many like newer people or the beginners that actually play around with the Illustrator, right? So for them, like they may find it not consistent that even they, though they have set the kerning, because for them the kerning is the way to set the space, or tracking is the way to set the space. So like even if they have set the space to 0, still that there is some space between like two different glyphs because of the bearing. It has, the bearing has its own importance, definitely, but like it's just like we just want to bridge the gap like between what you can see and what you can control visually with the traditional way of working with the typography. So like that's what we if you want to add anything extra like Shivi or Arushi, you can jump in.
Yeah, I just want to expand on the snap to glyph feature. Uh, Basically, the questions which Ishan has put forward. So, since it's a new feature and it's just released, just a week back, and it's available there in our 25.0 version. So, in the first phase, we focused mainly on Latin typefaces, and when you talk about multiple fonts inside a text box, so it will not give you all the inner areas of interest, but it will definitely give you a glyph bounds, which is the top, bottom, left, right. So that is what we have done in cases where it was slightly more complicated, and we are running validations that how should it work for multiple fonts and across different scripts. So it will work perfectly for Latin. But yes, we are working for CGK fonts in our next phase, which will roll out next year. And yes, other scripts also. So we'll take it progressively. And that's why we wanted to share it with the design community and get feedback from them. How useful are these features? And yes, yeah, they all are there in the application right now. So you should definitely go back and play around and tell us what else do you expect from it, and it would be very, very helpful for us.
Yeah, so do you think this feature in kerning is more for play? Because I feel like it's more precise to use the option and arrow keys in that sense.
So like Dina, you must be talking about the touch type tool, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so like basically the touch tool, like basically it is much more intuitive in the touch environment. So that's why we are actually call it a step tool now with Illustrator iPad also. So actually, like when we, it's not something new that we have shipped in Illustrator in this year. It was there already, but like I am saying that like with the Illustrator in the iPad, so this will become much more useful. So like not only at the glyph level, we can actually tweak the position of multiple glyphs also, these all line also, only with a single click. Because currently you have to go into the text edit mode and then you have to do something settings. But now just on a click, you can do whatever you want.
I
So
love that.
like
It makes it more approachable.
yeah, right.
Yeah. So Yuri says, with vertical alignment fixed, are there any plans to also fix left-right alignments? So
Right.
head and body text align by glyph body, not left side bearing line.
Yes. So like that's what we are actually coming into the real typography space, and we are like there are a lot of things to do in the real typography space, and these are few of the items in our plan next. We can't commit on the exact timelines, but yes, it's there in our pipeline.
What other tricks do you have in mind that you
So like we have lots many stuff. Like we have another presentation tomorrow as well. So like you can see that what more we are thinking about.
So Karapi says, sorry if this is a controversial question. Is it complicated to implement the new features while remaining script agnostic? I understand that that every complex script may have different requirements. But
No, so
sorry,
yeah,
the
so
only
like
difference is in rolling out features that work across the board.
yeah. So like basically, it's like it's the reverse way around. So like to be very specific, so like we just want to get the feedback from the feature that we rolled out, right? And we want and we want to do that incrementally. So like once we got enough feedback from let's say the Latin stuff, so we can incorporate that feedback in our support for the further script as well. So it's not that we are not extending it for all the other scripts, but we are doing that incrementally. So it may happen that for example, let's say unfortunately the feature that we are shipping, it may not be that useful, right? Maybe. So or there are some problems in the way we have implemented those features, right? So it's better to get the feedback from the customers first, and then we can build our solutions incrementally. So that's
and uh, and even like when we obviously, the most comfortable script is Latin for us, but as we expand it to other scripts, we make sure that we have our experts and we get our validations right and we hear from users. So it takes a fair amount of research and uh, you know yeah, prototyping and validations done before we roll out anything. So that's why we have phased it out. And for Snap to Glyph specifically, our Japanese users have a very high demand for it. So, but we really want to make it very precise for them. And currently we are running a lot of validations. So we feel it's really important to identify the problems as well as to give them a correct solution. Yeah, so that's how we really build. And it's like constant iterations and constant validations. And and our product cycle has also become really fast. So instead of having an annual release, we really want to have faster turnarounds and have quarterly releases. So it's becoming challenging, but it's also very important to give what the users really require. And with type features, I think it's been pending for a long time. And that's why, this year there has been a lot of focus on type precision. So even besides these features, we have more type features also, which are fairly, functional in nature. You have aligned with glyph bounds, and we even have the vertical text alignment, which was not there earlier. So we have tried to cover up, a greater amount of functionalities this year.
There is a function that actually I use in Glyphs and not in Illustrator because I don't know if it actually exists. I don't think so, but just uh, aligning when lettering, just aligning little corners to where I want to align them. So it's like aligning particular anchor points to where I want to align them. I'm not sure if this is something in the talks either, but that would be
Arushi,
so useful.
so Arushi, I think we have this in Illustrator, right? That anchor point snapping we already have, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, about the text objects, we do have anchor point snapping.
Anchor snapping, but you can't just take one and align it to another one, can you?
Yeah, we can.
We can. Okay.
If you're talking about all the internal anchor points of the live text as well, then that is how now has been enabled with the snap to glyph feature. You can pick any anchor point of the glyph, any live glyph, pick it and snap to any other point of a live glyph as well. Or you can snap any art object and snap it to the anchor point of a live glyph. It's now live with the Adobe Illustrator, its latest build.
There you go. Just had to update myself.
Yeah, and coming to one of the questions from viewers. So, viewers, it's so like if you have seen like our solutions, like even for the font height, we we actually don't want to change the correct way. By the correct way, I mean the way that has been defined by the font designer. So like how it works. But we like as I said that there are so many customers of so many users of the Illustrator, right? They don't know about like all this stuff, like why it works in that way. So like for them, we just want, because like the typographers may know about the in and out, but the but so many designers may not. So like for them, this may be a very useful feature if they want to do something very precisely. Then only by default, we definitely, like as in the case of the font height, by default we have kept the behavior similar to what is being traditionally defined and is correct. We agree.
Yeah, that's true. That we don't want to mess up with the legacy behavior and yeah, just shock our traditional users. So we yeah, keep the defaults same and we give alternate way of working. You can switch it off, switch it on based on your need. So we try to strike that balance. It's actually very risky to yeah just change the working paradigm for users.
So, what other questions do you all have? Don't hesitate to put them in the Q&A section or in the chat so we can read them. I wonder, what is the process of actually creating these features? How do you come up with this? How does it work? How do you sell it? How does it become real? What's the struggle behind? Tell us the story.
Yeah, that's quite a process. Yeah, at Adobe, and it all begins with the user requests, and we keep on tapping the problems and like exactly like what we are doing in the chat session right now. We keep tracking what users require. They've been complaining for a very long time. Like Ishan just pointed about the shortcuts. Like we know these problems, they exist, and it's been a very long time. But we are always trying to cover up, all the problems and look into consistency, standardization, and modernization. So all these initiatives are running parallel, in Adobe. But yes, we even we look at a macro level view as well as we go into all those micro details and requirements our users want. So you would be able to see that we have very basic type features. We have those niche features as well, which may be specific to a typographer. It would work. Then we have those magical automatic snapping, which might work for everyone. So yes, we cover a very wide range, and it's just about prioritizing and shortlisting whatever we hear from our users at the Adobe of consumer forums. And yeah, like if we have a lot of backlog items. So I think that's a yearly activity. We definitely plan a focus area for the year. So like this year, we really wanted to focus on typography. And that's how we filtered down all the features. And then it's a constant process of meeting the users. Probably we pick up people who we have noticed from the forums, and we go into great depth and start understanding their workflows and get into the depth of everything, that what do they require, what are their parallel dependencies, whether it's plugins, scripts, and how can we really give them an experience which truly will be novel to Illustrator. And then definitely we work on the experience design. How will it be on the interface? We create prototypes, and then we'll do definite validations. Now we have even run our beta initiative, so that is open to all users now from our Creative Cloud desktop manager. So yeah, like we definitely hear from our users at every level, and after that we keep refining. And there are a lot of bugs, and we keep trying to at least, if we phase things out, like definitely features have a huge scope, and there are a lot of users we need to cover up for our applications, but we phase it out and we plan it. And like you can see that we are all talking about that, okay, we have done something for Latin, but we will expand it for other scripts as well, because it's difficult to cover everything at the same time. But yeah, we are very happy to roll out things progressively, because we can constantly keep improvising and refining it. I think that's the way we work, and that's the way we want to push design towards in the future. And and once the marketing team really picks up and understands that these features are like really powerful and path breaking, that's how the whole journey of reaching out to the users comes. And the release programs are designed, and you would have seen the Max Adobe just happened around the corner just last week. So I feel this conference has been like at a very great time because the features are out. And like it's a whole cycle. Like I would say throughout the year we divide it, and we constantly keep iterating and keep working, and that's the model which we follow. So that's our secret. And I think happy to share.
So Dina, one more thing. So like even like I am also a customer of Adobe Illustrator, right? I also use that for few of my other designs, and like since I am I am a developer also. So like whenever I face any problem, like while working myself in the that is also a source of the problem for us. So then we try to validate that the problem that we faced, is that a real problem or not? Because if we are facing that issues, and we get to know that this is also an issue the customer faced, so we can build a very intuitive solution for that. So so that's another point that I want to add.
Yeah. So what exactly is Illustrator uservoice.com?
So like basically like you can put out any bugs or feature request in that portal. So like we can see that like we have like every year we try to divide our budget so that we can focus very heavily on the things that the users really demand. So like the vertical alignment like that we shipped in the August, so like that was very high in our user voice request. So like we pick that. So like that is the source for us to get to know what is much more demanding among the customers, and we can focus on that on priority. So like let's say if you have any feature request, you put it there, and so many other people vote out on those things. So we can see that many customers need that.
I'll just add that that's one of the direct ways of catching feedback and requests from users. But we definitely reach out to the social networks as well, and like Twitter, and like we do cover up a lot of background with regard to the feedback we are getting. And that's how we take things up. But yes, the user forum becomes one of the integral channels of picking up requests. And some things are very known. As product managers, designers, and engineers. In fact, like there's a lot of like personal innovation and realizations we have, and yes, we push that also in the product. And a lot of times it aligns with our user request as well. So like Praveen mentioned, that we ourselves are like users. Like I'm a designer, So I know what complexities are there, and we really need to work on that. So yes, pretty much a personal and definitely user connect. Both of them work for us.
Thanks for this answer. Therapy says, can we start a Slack with you guys for taking direct requests and discussing features? That's a political question.
So like,
I think if we get it pouring, it will be never ending probably.
so like you can like definitely you can share the request that you have, and like as I said that like definitely like we have to prioritize and plan our things. So if the stuff that like you shared with us, it's definitely the thing on priority, we will definitely act on it. But like you can understand that there is always a constraint and the limitation in the budgets that we can allocate. So
And
yeah.
yeah, like there is nothing which we miss. I mean, we have list of items, so it's not that anything goes unnoticed. Probably, yeah, we just take time in. Like I said, we have product roadmap, and that's how things come up every year. But if not this year, it would be next year. But yeah, it will be catered.
Eve was talking earlier about a budget perspective, and how do things actually get approved and not approved?
From the budget perspective, I would not be able to highlight on that because it's more done by the product management. But we definitely estimate the bandwidth of the team. So that is something which is very important because like we are not just working on type features, for example. There are a lot of other since it's a vector application, we are focusing on color and shapes and fonts and this year we rolled out amazing Illustrator on iPad. So there are a lot of initiatives which are happening. So I think that's pretty much how the bandwidth of the entire team that is estimated, and that's how things are divided. So a budget, I would not really say budget, but I think it's more about the value. That's really what we consider value to, I mean, the users and value to us. And yes, yeah, that's what we focus on.
That makes sense. Aaron says, about a year ago, time is meaningless. I saw a demonstration of the crazy new Photoshop technology that automatically creates a font based on a few sample letters in an image. Has your team been involved with that? Any opinions?
So, Erin, I think it's not in the Photoshop. Like, I think I showcased that technology, I think 2 years back in the Max Sneak, I think in the Max 2018. It was the font Foria, where I showcased that we can generate the whole set of other glyphs, the colored glyphs from the few glyphs in the images. So yeah, so like I am the person who is involved in it definitely, and the work is also going on. But like as I said, like in my earlier session also, whenever the Adobe shipped anything, the Adobe wants to foolproof that it is very robust, and it will not also hurt the sentiment of the font designers. So like we have to like, because the font designers are the committee that we also care about. So yeah, we may add few capability, like we definitely don't want to add the capability of generating any random fonts. So we are still figuring out that what is the best way to ship those features for our customers.
Is there a talk about extending this to 3D? I mean, I know there is a 3D feature in Illustrator, but to invest more in it, maybe?
So, Dina, so like I will not reveal what we are going to work on, but you may see
I'm trying.
you may see the plan for the next year is still underway. So like we don't know, and like if you like you, I think it's better if you can actually join the pre-release program, because we share the roadmap and also discuss our roadmap with the pre-release committee, well in advance. So like it may happen that all the other customers, like they may got to know about the feature, let's say in the max time frame, but the pre-release users, since they have to try out with that build, they may know about that thing like maybe 2 or 3 or even 4 months before. So I think that will be very helpful, and that's a very useful channel, because that way you can actually share your feedback as well.
So and we are definitely following the trends. I mean, that's like all, contemporary work and demand. So like you said, 3D motion. I mean, these are like very in topics for us also. So yeah, we are exploring that, but we don't have anything concrete to share right now in terms of roadmap. But yes, matching the trends for sure. That's there.
Well, I'm excited to see what will come out, even if we can't know what is going to come out.
Yeah, probably next conference we can see something.
There is a question by Lawrence. How closely is the space treatment aligning with the changes now happening to CSS in the same area?
Yeah, so like Lawrence, so like basically like this is what like we have felt also, that the real typography space is where we have seen the trend, like in the different areas they are moving towards something more real, right? And like although these two works are not connected, but like as like Adobe is working on the font height variations, like I think few other companies they are working on something else, some different solutions in some different problem areas to make the things much more real. So I will say that ultimately all of these things will actually converge, and you may see like this experience consistently across the board.
So yeah, if you have more questions, put them in the chat. We're almost done with this session, so I think we have time for a few more questions that we can take. You know what's exciting? I feel like Adobe is like kind of the parents who hide the candy. And we're the kids waiting for the candy. Tim asks, what typography UI ideas are you excited to explore in 2021?
Sorry, like may you please like.
Tim asks, what typography UI ideas are you excited to explore in 2021?
Yeah, so like I think that's the question for like the team is like he he leads so many things in Adobe related to the typography, and he wants to get the feedback from the other people in the chat to get. I
Yeah.
think that's a question not for us. That's a question for the bigger audience. So team, we already know that I have a long list, right? And like you can see one of those lists in the tomorrow session, like which I will also showcase. And I hope I will request the people to definitely join about the interactive coloring session that we are going to have tomorrow. It will explore some new ways how you can actually color a non-colored font. So that's
I
like.
Yeah, I would actually answer that we have covered a lot of functional typography. Yeah, the precise yeah aspect of it, but we are definitely going to move towards creative typography as well. Like the way Dina was asking about 3D, and yeah, what can be more like cooler stuff for users. So as following the trends as well. So that is something also we are looking at, and I personally would like to explore that domain as well. So yeah, as Praveen would have like a huge list as a computer scientist, and I think yeah, we from the designers yeah section, we also have like a lot of cool stuff which we can explore, and yeah, finding that balance between functional as well as creative, and yeah, uh, exactly what designers are doing right now yeah, in the industry.
Erin says, great stuff. Thank you. I agree. Just wanted to put that on the record.
Yeah, thanks. Like it's very great. Like if you build something and and it's really useful for the customers. Like we actually want to build that tech so that it is actually useful for the customers.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone, and especially
Yeah.
Tim. It means a lot. Yeah, having you here, and everyone else. Definitely, I think a direct connect will really help us, and just honing whatever we are doing currently. And Dina, thanks a lot. I think I enjoyed this session a lot because of you as well.
Well, thank you so much for everything you shared with us and all the efforts that you're doing to, just make the Adobe products even better. And, just kind of sharing tips with us and enlightening our moods. I'm super excited to see what you come up with next, but also to play with what you have now. Thank you so much for every single person who attended and all your questions. This was so exciting. I'm so happy. So yeah, I mean, we still have a few more minutes if you want to ask any last question. I think we have about 5 minutes. Welcome back.
Sorry, I got disconnected for a moment due to network issues.
That's okay. We just said really kind words now that you missed.
I can see all the chat over here, and it's great that you people like it and love it a lot. It's great.
I think I can stop recording maybe right now.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, sure.